I am making a difference. And that difference is trying to protect the next person. I don't want to see anything like this happen to anyone ever again.
Excuse me, is this the occupational hygiene lab?
Yes, you must be Eric.
Dr. Sage.
I'm Marie.
Hello, Marie. Thank you. And thank you very much for putting this together for me, especially on the weekend.
No problem. I'm glad to help. So how long have you been teaching WHMIS?
I taught my first class last week, and it was a disaster. I'm just not used to doing this kind of thing, especially in front of the guys I work with. But then I called you and you told me you had these stories.
Look, when I taught WHMIS, and it was a while ago, I used to try to use stories, but I never had any on video like this.
I've got one sleepless night before I have to face the class again, but this time's going to be different because I spent all of last week working on a new approach.
And these stories are going to help.
I used to be a very attractive young man. I had blonde hair, big dimples, blue eyes. I could fix floors where other people didn't know what to do. I was very talented with my hands. I enjoyed the hard work, and it kept me really fit. I did really like floor laying, and the money behind it was excellent as well. The chemical involved was a contact thinner. It was a solvent. Its flash point was almost equal to gasoline, which I didn't know, and it's very explosive, highly combustible. Its main purpose was to clean glue residue. You dab it on a cloth and then wipe it off, and we were actually just dumping the product on the floor 40 liters at a time. And the material would come up easier than peeling off a wet Band-Aid. Now, I would never even consider doing something like that without picking up a material safety data sheet first. That day, I was sent to remove linoleum from a brand new house, and by 4 o'clock, I was almost done. I was going home to plan my good friend's stag party. So my mind definitely was not on my job, it was about getting out of my job and getting home. I had just a few square feet of linoleum left to remove right in front of the front door. And then all of a sudden I heard a loud whistle, and then bang, then fire erupted out of nowhere. It engulfed my entire body. The temperature went up to 1500 degrees Celsius, which is double the heat of the average house fire, and they cremate bodies at 1500 degrees Celsius to put it in perspective. I instinctively jumped up to my feet, grabbed onto the front door and pulled with all my strength, but that door didn't open because in order for the air to feed the fire, it was sucking through any little crack it could find in the house, which sealed those doors shut. I ran down the hallway into the laundry room where the garage entry was, and that door didn't open, and by this time all my hair was burnt off of my head. My clothes were burning, and I could literally feel the skin on my face shrinking. So I gave up, and I actually collapsed into a ball and interlocked my fingers over the back of my head. Everything went really peaceful, and I took some time to think. It seemed like a long time to think, and I realized everything I had worth living for. My wife, my unborn child, myself, and something gave me strength to get back up and try that door again, and it opened. I didn't hesitate, and I jumped into that garage. And at this point, I was bald, I was naked, and I was physically on fire. I lost 14 months of my life to hospitals. I received 3rd and 4th degree burns to 90% of my body, and I literally had burnt 63 pounds of my body, which had to be surgically removed. I missed the birth of my daughter, my first child. I lost many friends. I lost my job and the ability to do my job. I've lost my hair, my nose, my ears, my nipples, 1/3 of my fingers, all of my fingernails, most of my eyebrows and most of my eyelashes. My body's completely riddled in scars. I lost a lot. I know that my actions contributed to what has happened to me. By saying, yes, I'll do that job, and not asking questions, now when I see me look in the mirror, I see me, the burned Spencer. I'll never see the other Spencer. I dream of him, but I'll never see him.
I can't believe nobody told him how flammable that solvent was.
Well, that's my point. People have got to ask more questions.
What's the point of putting hazard warnings on WHMIS labels if no one's going to read them?
Well, I never used to read the labels. I mean, nothing was ever going to happen to me. I was more worried about the kind of gas and oil I put in my car than the chemicals I worked with.
Do you think Spencer would have poured that stuff all over the floor if it had been gasoline?
Of course not. Unless he was planning on burning the house down.
Exactly. Here's the MSDS. Look at the flash point of the solvent he was using, minus 26 degrees Celsius.
Flash point, that's the lowest temperature at which there are enough vapors to ignite. Yeah, but what does that mean to a guy like Spencer or to me?
Well, it's only useful if you compare it to something you already know.
Okay. Like what?
Okay. The flash point of kerosene is about plus 40 degrees Celsius and up, same as diesel. Methanol, plus 12. Toluene, just above 0. The flash point of gasoline, minus 40 degrees. And here's the solvent Spencer was using.
That works. That's very clear.
But more than just type of hazard or degree of danger, you need to put it into context. What quantity are they using? What about ventilation? Are there any sources of ignition?
Yeah, right. Like the furnace where he was working. This is a very good starting point. The guys will get this. Can I use it?
Sure, if it'll help.
And Spencer's story?
Absolutely. He wants what happened to him to make a difference for someone else.
You're supposed to have muscle. It's supposed to be strong. I used to be able to pick up 200 pounds, not a problem.
It doesn't bother me. I've seen Spencer at his absolute worst when the accident first happened and he was just a thin layer of skin over bone. And I think you could still recognize him from before. You can still see the old Spencer.
Guess what I got?
Muffin.
No. Oh,
Cupcake.
no. Nothing.
Guess what I got?
What?
Yeah.
There were so many things that I did wrong that day. Never need to happen. I'd never heard of WMIS before. I had no idea what an MSDS was. Never looked at it once. Didn't know what it meant, didn't care. My job was to get the floor up. If you don't take the time to know it and to read the material safety data sheet before you work with a chemical, you won't have the time to read it after something goes wrong. I am making a difference. And that difference is trying to protect the next person. I don't want to see anything like this happen to anyone ever again.